Welcome back. You're watching Ian King Live. Now, how much sauce do you want with your burger? US fast food chain Wendy's has been described as the mean girl of Twitter for being cheeky to its customers. In one post, the company shots back at a follower, sorry for your taste buds, after they announced Burger King was their favourite restaurant. In another, the burger chain turned on one of its own customers, insulting his style of clothing, tweeting, "Turn your hat round, you aren't Bart Simpson and it isn't 1997. Well, does taking a snarky tone and using humour on Twitter ultimately boost sales? I'm joined by the international brand expert and former vice chairman of Saatchi & Saatchi, Rita Clifton, and the social media editor at the newspaper, Felicity Moore. So, Rita, this is very witty stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very witty stuff, but I mean, they've earned the right to be witty. There is nothing sadder than a brand that actually is trying to kind of be fun, trying to be social and everything else, when they don't get their basic product and service right. So that's the killer insight here, is you've got to be a really good business with a decent product in the first place. Otherwise, save your breath and save your money.
Felicity, who do you think they're talking to here? Is this millennial customers or a wider audience?
Well, yes, I think it does depend on what you're selling. I think for somebody, for example, in the news setting like Vice, that might be a really good way to interact with who you want your readers to be, but perhaps not if you're Southern Rail and your service is woeful.
Yes, well, that went very well for them. Well, Wendy's sarcastic put-downs have earned it an 80% increase in followers during the past year. Some companies, however, have not been so adept at Twitter campaigns, and attempts at engaging have painfully backfired. Walker's recently suffered a backlash after it tried to promote its brand through inviting people to post selfies with Gary Lineker. The feed was inundated, as you can see there, with pictures of the former football star with a range of unpalatable characters, from Stalin to Jimmy Savile. Well, Rita, this is what can go terribly wrong, isn't it?
I know. You've got to think about the golden rules here, which is, number one, of course, you've got to have a great product and service in the first place. Secondly, you've got to produce great content that people want to share. But thirdly, don't ask for it. There are some really, really terrible examples where, you know, an investment company or, you know, a bank was saying, you know, ask JPM. And of course, people would say things like, you know, you're stuck in a room with no key, you've got a paper clip and a light bulb and everything else. Now, how do you defraud investors? Even saintly Waitrose, frankly, got it wrong when it was asking people, I shop at Waitrose because, and they were inundated with, you know, well, Clarissa's pony won't eat own label, you know, straw or hay or whatever it was, and I like going there because people say things like, put the papaya down, Orlando. So you have to be very, very careful. I mean, there's a clue in the word social. You know, this is for sharing, it's for engaging and everything else, but of course it does also suffer from the downsides of the social situations, which is that you can lose friends and not influence people pretty quickly too.
Yeah, well, Felicity, you touched on Southern Rail just now, where they had the 15-year-old intern the other day, but that was their best publicity for months, wasn't it?
That was their best publicity, but can you imagine if they'd been really sassy and when people were striking, it might have worked for them. They might have said, oh, I'm sorry that we want fair pay. That could have gone viral, but also they could have also, it could have backfired very badly. I think it depends on, and I think also what's interesting is I'm very interested to see how it works in a British context, because Wendy's is American, there's a bit of sass going around, sort of BBC Three, I think, do it quite well, and I think with younger audiences, they quite like it because they understand that it's playful.
Yeah, but I mean, older customers might find it a bit disrespectful almost, mightn't they?
Well, they can do, but I mean, if you think about the profile of people who are on social media, I mean, the vast majority of young people, of course, are on social media. In fact, they spend a lot of their life on social media. Now, clearly, internet users, I mean, the majority of them are using social media, but it does go down by age group. So you've got to make sure you're age appropriate, that you're brand appropriate, that you're message appropriate. But at the end of the day, you've got to be a really, really good business where your own staff care about you. They're prepared to say nice things about you. This is a great way of getting, you know, brand performance really quickly on a low budget if you are really good, because people share that story. If you're rubbish, sadly, people will share that story as well. If you ask for it, I'm afraid that's going to kind of get around pretty quickly and virally too.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting... Sorry, Felicity.
I was just going to say, I think sometimes it's much more fun as a social media editor, and I used to work at BBC Newsbeat, if you can reply to people, and at the BBC or Radio 1, you've got your hands tied behind your back a little bit. But we used to get sort of 45-year-old men tweeting at us saying like, oh, I don't like One Direction, like bring Chris Moyles back. And it's like, maybe you should just change radio stations.
Yes. Oh, well, you have to be very careful about that one, certainly, looking as though you're trying to groove it up, down with the kids. Really, really bad news. You've got to make sure you get the message right. You've got to make sure that you get your offers right. And, of course, you've got to make sure you get the language right, too. And I mentioned Waitrose earlier. They were great. They came out and said, we enjoyed reading all these jokes, too. So they got themselves in on the joke, even though they actually made a mistake in the first place. So you can recover from these situations, but not if you are a bad business or a rubbish brand.
Very briefly, Felicity, who do you think has been the best example lately?
I think Greggs is really good. I think they sort of hit it just about right, and they're trying to be niche and be in on the joke a little bit, perhaps like a Nando's, like Cheeky Nando's and all of that going round, and they tweet at Ed Sheeran, that they're trying to sort of get in with that kind of thing, and they reply to people. I think also Virgin have been quite good. I know somebody tweeted at them saying, oh, there's no toilet roll.
OK, we'll leave it there, I'm afraid. Felicity Morse, Rita Clifton.
Leave it there.
Sorry, folks, we'll continue this conversation afterwards. Anyway, you've been watching Ian King Live. A reminder there's video content and analysis on the business pages of the Sky News website, plus our interviews on the Sky News YouTube channel. We've got a few weeks off now, but we'll see you again at the beginning of September. Next up, Sky News Tonight with Gamal Fambolay. Have a good August, folks. Thanks for watching. Good night.